So J-Bob, everyone, we are sharing our favorite poems or poems that we've written tonight, and so happy to be doing that. And Telly Lumbeck will open for us this evening with a poem that he wrote recently about Tom Riley's passing. I'll pass it over to you, Telly, and thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Yeah, I found myself the day after Tom dropped his body. I was sitting in my living room, and I felt like there was something I wanted to express, put down on paper. And the thought that kind of came to my mind, what is it like across the veil? And that became this little poem. What is it like across the veil, where you no longer breathe, no longer ail, no longer move at the pace of a snail, no longer worry about win, pass, or fail, no longer perceive on an ego's scale, no longer strive your way to prevail, no longer wish to get out of jail, no longer believe in separation's tale. What is it like across the veil?
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I possibly Tom Riley had a hand in that. Should I read another?
Yes. Here's another
Okay.
one. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to read one that I came across not so long ago. It's a Mary Oliver poem called Sunrise. You can die for it, an idea, or the world. People have done so brilliantly, letting their small bodies be bound to the stake, creating an unforgettable fury of light. But this morning, climbing the familiar hills in the familiar fabric of dawn, I thought of China and India and Europe. And I thought how the sun blazes for everyone just so joyfully as it rises under the lashes of my own eyes. And I thought, I am so many. What is my name? What is the name of the deep breath I would take over and over for all of us? Call it whatever you want. It is happiness. It is another one of the ways to enter fire.
Hmm.
Wow, I've never heard that one.
She's so awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I read that at a meditation group I participated in, and someone else said the same thing. I've never heard that one from her. Yeah.
She
Can't
has
go wrong
so,
with St. Oliver.
she has so many poems. It's really just it's an incredible thing to like she was so prolific.
Yeah.
She had a discipline of rising every morning before dawn and going out into the woods or by the seaside and actually walking with her dogs in the dark and writing. She would actually write while she walked.
Wow.
Yeah, and she lived in an area that was they had a huge group of woods close to her house that was considered. There are only a few wild areas in the United States that are considered wild and scenic, and there's like 7 or 8 places in the United States, and they have special status they can never be built on. And the woods near her house were considered wild and scenic, so they were very raw and unattended, which would have been perfect for inspiring the kind of work that she does or that she did.
Tracy, did you mention where she lived? Where was that?
She lived in Massachusetts, in Providence.
Many years ago, I saw a study that they did about the farthest away you can get from a regularly serviced road in the lower 48 states of America, not including, of course, Hawaii and Alaska. And I was shocked at the number. 17 miles before you hit a regularly serviced road.
Oh.
That's the farthest you can get in America. It's in Yosemite, that spot.
Oh.
That's not very far.
It's not very far. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I also picked something from Mary Oliver, but it was a prose piece. So I'll read it later. Kelly, would you like to read one more?
Okay.
We pass the baton.
Okay, this is called The Body Politic of Peace by a poet by the name of Gail Brandeis. Listen, the body is not a battleground, as some people would like you to believe. The body knows peace. Peace, after all, is the body's natural state. Think of the body in repose, the way muscles loosen, breath opens up. Think of the body in love. It knows what to do. It is our mind that does not. It is our mind that makes us feel separate, isolated. It is our mind that dreams up war. The body says, no, come back to me. I am fragile and strong, and I connect you to the earth. Come back to the heartbeat, the pulse, the rhythm we all walk to, regardless of nation or color. Come back to the breath. Inhale. Take the world deep into your lungs. Exhale. Give yourself back fully. This is what the body says. Release the peace that lives within your skin.
Wow.
I don't know what I love more, the poem or the reader.
Get a room, you guys. Get a room.
That is
It's easy to have a crush on the Telly voice. Telly's voice is a forgivable crush on all levels.
Yeah, that was a great poem, Telly.
That came out of this meditation group that I've been part of since the pandemic started. And the lady who runs it just has a very good ear for poetry. She's a musician, singer, and she does a great job leading that group. And she introduces stuff like that. I've never heard of the lady.
I love it. Wow, thank you for sharing that. Would you mind emailing that out to us? We'd love to have a copy of that.
Sure.
Got everybody's email, I believe. If you don't have everybody's, send it out to your members, and
I'll email it to you. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure.
We might have time for you to do one more if you want.
Actually, I only got those three that I kind of lined up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to duck out at some point.
Well, we wanted Diane's crush to have full.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I should not have been drinking when you said that.
Thank you, Telly. Lovely.
You're welcome.
Yeah, really lovely.
You're welcome.
Laurent, did you want to go next?
Yeah, because I get my laptop's gonna die, so
Okay.
I'm gonna go in and plug it in after I do this one, I think.
Okay.
A little bit of a setup here. Baba, of course, loved Hafez, and translating Hafez is extraordinarily difficult. Baba said that even he, as the avatar, was not able to properly translate Hafez into English, even though he had infinite knowledge. It was that hard to do. So I worked with Azita Namaranian, who's a native Dari and Farsi speaker, on this poem for a long time. It's in the book, Surrender with Mayor Baba, if you want to check out the book. But here it is. Hafez says, that king of kings, our beloved, is stealing the hearts of his lovers. One glance of his beauty enchanting them, broken-hearted and intoxicated with love, they rush to his side. He joined my path and approached this dervish with his intoxicating presence, addressing me as Mashuk, his sweetheart among the inspired poets. He asked me, how much longer will you live alone like a poor fakir, when you can live abundantly just as my fortunate slave? If that tiny speck like a dervish spins around the sun, don't sell yourself short. Love me, and you'll find yourself whirling towards the
Stop it.
heart sun itself. Don't depend upon anything in this harsh world. Instead, pour into your chalice only gentle beauty and tenderness. That wine bringer, peace be upon him and his family, admonished me then to stop associating with deceivers. Beholding the field of succulent red tulips, I wonder who was so cruel to break their pure hearts, so many martyrs drenched in blood. Hafez answers his own question. You and I are not allowed to lift this shroud of secrecy. Remain focused on his love and the beauty of his luscious mouth. To escape from the antagonist, just hold tightly to the robe of Mer Baba. Become the man of Yazdan and be protected from true evil, our Iman. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Lauren, would you read that again? Diane, do you have a new poet crush now?
I'd be happy to read it again, except
Yes.
one condition.
Yeah.
Somebody is not on mute. So if you're not reading, if you could go on mute so we
I
don't
think that
hear
was
any
Diane.
background.
I think that was Diane and it got taken care of. Yeah.
That was me, and I absolve. I'm sorry.
Absolve. You absolve yourself.
I know. When
Yes.
I realized
So-
that my dogs are making noise, I immediately hit the mute button, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to apologize.
That is true power when you can absolve yourself.
I'm telling you. It's a new age of Aquarius. Okay. Naturally, I put Mayor Baba in the place of what he had written, which is the friend, but we're all Baba lovers, so I think it's fair to substitute Mayor Baba there. He also, I asked Azita when we went over this, and in the original, he used not the Muslim, because he was, of course, a Muslim. He used the pre-Muslim Persian name for God, Yazdan, which Baba loved that name. And he also used the Zoroastrian name of the antagonist, Ar-Iman. So in both cases, he went to pre-Muslim names, which is quite interesting if you're into that kind of trivia or level of detail. And I love it. Also, the word fakir. Fakir is like Shirdi Sai Baba was the greatest fakir of the time recently, where he has nothing, but he has power in that nothing. It's the power of God and relying wholly and solely on God. Of course, Shirdi Sai Baba was a perfect master and the head of the perfect masters. But the idea is fakiri or being a fakir means you literally are with nothing and rely wholly and solely on God for everything. So, oh, and the word mashuk. Mashuk is a Persian word which means basically sweetheart. All right, one more time. Hafez says, that King of Kings, our beloved, is stealing the hearts of his lovers. One glance of his beauty enchanting them, broken-hearted and intoxicated with love, they rush to his side. He joined my path and approached this dervish with his intoxicating presence, addressing me as Mashuk, his sweetheart among the inspired poets. He asked me, how much longer will you live alone like a poor fakir when you can live abundantly just as my fortunate slave? If even that tiny speck like a dervish spins around the sun, don't sell yourself short. Love me, and you'll find yourself whirling towards the heart of the sun itself. Don't depend on anything in this harsh world. Instead, pour into your chalice only gentle beauty and tenderness. That wine bringer, peace be upon him and his family, admonished me to stop associating with deceivers. Beholding the field of succulent red tulips, I wonder who was so cruel to break their pure hearts. So many martyrs drenched in blood. Hafez answers his own question. You and I are not allowed to lift this shroud of secrecy. Remain focused on his love and the beauty of his luscious mouth. To escape from the antagonist, just hold tightly to the Sadra of Meher Baba. Become the woman of Yazdan and be protected from true evil, our Iman. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. You're not allowed to lift the veil of the secrecy. I love that. That is just so beautiful and such an apt comment about, the veil that we are surrounded by. Speaking of death, that we don't have control over, but we can sometimes perceive through.
Yeah, that's certainly true for me about what's going on in the world right now. I hate what I see going on in the Ukraine and in other parts of the world. And any question I have is answered right here. You and I are not allowed to lift this shroud of secrecy, like you just said. Instead, remain focused on his love and the beauty of his luscious mouth. He gives instructions about what to do.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. That was really beautiful. I've heard it before, but when you hear a good translation of Hafez, like you just, it's like walking into a field of flowers. You just really want to behold it from many angles and spend as much time inhaling the fragrance as possible. It's just, it's so rich, so full. It's such a, in a good way, overwhelming experience. Yeah. Thank you. There's a new book of translations of Rumi out, by the way, that a woman from New York just did, Iranian woman who lives here in the United States. I've got a copy. I'm going to read it next time. My cellist is going to be doing the tour with me in New York and New England, a friend of ours.
Can you maybe send the title of that book? When you send the poem from Telly, can you send the title of the book?
Yeah. Thank you, Laurent. Who would like to go next? Diane? Yeah.
You want us to read like our favorite poets, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to hold off on who wrote this until the end. That's okay?
Sure.
It's in the silence. It's in the quiet moments our life speaks most loudly. In between the cracks of our shouting and our mystical need to run like hell from ourselves. And when the coin of the realm, stillness, finally breaks through and invites us to embrace ourselves, judgment and conditions left behind, the need breaks wide open and all the paths rush at breakneck speed. Our very own Tracey Schmidt.
That's fun to hear it. Thank you. Haven't heard that one in a while.
I'd like to hear it again. Could you maybe go a tiny bit slower, please?
Sure. I'll go at 78.
Go a lot slower, Diane.
It's in the silence. It's in the quiet moments. Our life speaks most loudly, in between the cracks of our shouting and our mystical need to run like hell from ourselves. And when the coin of the realm, stillness, finally breaks through and invites us to embrace ourselves, judgment and conditions left behind, the need breaks wide open and all the paths rush at breakneck speed. Do you remember what
Yeah.
your thinking was before you wrote that?
Yeah, I was sitting in the original kitchen, if I'm not mistaken, when I wrote that, and was thinking about how being in the presence of Mayor Baba and being at the center is such a beautiful opportunity to walk away from the entanglement of the world and the constant noise that we're surrounded by, that just becomes more and more and more, a cacophony. And how every time I'm in that silence, I just feel like I can hear myself more clearly, as well as Baba's commentary and will for me, and the general flow of energy that I can choose to be part of or not be part of, and that we can all choose to be part of or not be part of. It's like, if we don't have that quiet time, how can we find where the direction is in our lives? And that's really what I was thinking about. As an introvert, it's something I think about all the time anyway, but yeah. The power of stillness, the power of quiet is what I was thinking about, and how Baba really presents that to us so beautifully at the center. I mean, Kathy Riley dragged me to the center. I didn't want to go, with like, oh no. And there I was at the Mayor Baba Center. I really didn't know anything about it. She didn't tell me very much about it. And Kathy, we were staying in the same room, and she just, she's a chatterbox. She wanted me to meet this person and that person and this person. And I finally said to her, I have no idea what's happening to me, but I literally cannot speak. Like, I don't want to speak to anyone about anything. I have no idea what's happening to me. I'm so sorry. I was apologizing. And, she just kind of turned to me and she said, well, Mayor Baba didn't speak for the last, many years of his life. And that's what you're feeling. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is what I'm feeling. Because she didn't tell me. So it's so palpable there. It's such a gift. Such a gift to be in the presence of silence. And I also think it is such a gift to be in the presence of silence with another person. To just enjoy the quiet between two people. You can really feel the energy between two people, the flow.
My child asked for silence with me.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's a powerful thing to share silence with someone, I think.
Definitely. My mentor rarely spoke. Never gave a talk. Didn't hear him read a poem. Rarely spoke. Silence is wonderful between very close people.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Rainey. It is. Yeah. Was that Francis Brabazon your mentor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mentor and uncle and friend, but yes. Because we're talking about poetry, I called him a mentor.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
I have one more.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Before you do, can I share one single line from Mayor Baba that I was inspired to share by what everybody's sharing?
Yeah.
It's from the discourses. It's one of my favorite sentences in the discourses. It's quite short. Mayor Baba said, being is dying by loving. Jay Baba.
Can you repeat that?
Being is loving by dying.
Yes, of course. Mayor Baba said, being is dying by loving.
Laurent Francis wrote a whole 3-hour play called Being is Dying by Loving, too.
If you start now, we could hear the whole thing.
No, you'll fall asleep. That's what happened. The audience fell asleep. They fell asleep at a Being is Dying by Loving song, and they woke up at the end, at the next dawn, when it was the Being is Dying by Loving song. It was too long.
If you have a copy, I'd love to see it.
Oh, yeah, okay. Some of it's on a CD with the spoken word and some of the songs. Called Being is Dying by Loving, but I can send that to you. But the script itself, I have a shortcut version of the script, yeah.
Okay. By the way, I was just writing about Francis yesterday in Don's biography.
Oh,
so
and
I have to have a chat with you here soon about something I wrote.
all right, lovely.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Laurent.
So you want one more?
Oh, if you have one, yeah, absolutely.
I do. So Jeff Overton, besides the many talents he shares with us, wrote a book of poetry with Bob Jager. Yeah. So I've enjoyed, there's something really special about reading poetry written by someone you know personally. I mean, Tracey, to be able to ask you what you were thinking right before you wrote that, what a gift. What a true gift. So thank you so much. This is called Through a Glass Darkly. Have you ever watched someone through your window and even waved to them, but because of the reflection, they couldn't see you? That's how the beloved is with us, following our every mood and feeling, full of delight at our happiness and hurt when we feel bad about ourselves. And yet we often don't know he's there. Why? Because we keep seeing our own reflection in front of us. But do this, step very close to the window and look in, and you'll be eternally surprised by the beloved's warm, adoring face. Hey, Baba.
Hey, Baba. I don't know how many of you know this, but that title is from a very famous line in the Bible. It's from Corinthians 13:12. For now we see through a glass, darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know, even as also I am known. For now we see in a mirror darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know fully, even as I also was fully known. Just wanted to give that a little context for those who did not know the context it came from.
That's awesome. I believe Corinthians is Paul.
I think you're right.
It is for sure.
Oh,
That was from Paul, the Apostle Paul. Yeah.
thank you, Ralph. Welcome.
Thank you, J. Bob.
Who would like to, Ralph, in case you didn't get the email, we are sharing our favorite poems or a poem that we've written, a poem that really inspires us. And if you have some poems you'd like to read, just let us know. We'll fit you into the schedule.
Okay.
I can go next, if you like.
Yes, Rainey, please. Thank you.
I've got a couple of poems from my poetry CD, Grin and Gulp. Because of all of the problems of the last 2 years and now upon us, the worst trigger for baby boomers that exists is war, of course, or anybody that's a post-war baby and raised with terrified parents around them all the time. I thought I would choose 2 poems about spring.
Rainey, is there any way you can not have that thing that's happening in the background on?
I can move to the other room because it's Franietta's Franietta's perpetual world is which I've learnt to Let's get rid of. I'll move to the other room, it might be better. Yeah. Okie doke, there we go. I phase it out, I don't even hear it. It's 40 years of it. Anyway, these are to do with, my poems from Grin and Gulp, as you know, are to do with the environment mostly, but just occasionally an image will flash across a TV that might be left on the wrong channel other than the tennis channel, which is my perpetual saviour right now, is getting the tennis channel, not the other channels showing destructive, disgraceful behaviour. But even in my environmental poems, I never let go of the fact that this is happening because of karma, the environmental destruction, and because we created it as well, and he created it, unfortunately, as well. This one's called, for want of a better title and because words trigger other silly words, that's my mother's fault, not mine. From my treehouse, chicory chick chilla chilla. Look at you birds, out the window with your little black cap, hanging upside down eating pine blossoms 4 stories up. If I caught you in my hand, you'd fit quite comfortably. I find you in my bird book. Looks like a chickadee to me. Rain dust, you try being that tiny bird and eating upside down, and between bites whistle a song or two in the moment and never frown. Bird song, your song, my song, their songs, we all sound together. Maybe that will forestall Kali's winds of change and their tremor. Holograms, flames follow her breath as she brings about Kali Yuga seeming crime. A god-winged dragon of stupendous beauty on the spoilers' chests, dancing in time. She, the rhythm of the dark night of time, dances to sounds and beats of beauty. She might hide her time, she might bide her time, but alas, with Kali, destruction is unfortunately her duty. But I have every reason to be happy as I hear the chickadee sound with his sweet voice. I am watched over by a beautiful goddess I once met, singing her song, to him I rejoice. Oh, rain dust, see the bird's beauty, sing to the beloved, love him as he should be loved. Give us the wisdom of purification and transformation. Help us cut off the demon's head. Om Hreem Hreem Gleem Jangmundavi Vicha Swaha. Om Hreem Hreem Gleem Jangmundaya Vicha Swaha.
Thank you.
Wow. Do you know what the last bit means in Hindi? It sounds like Hindi.
A Sanskrit chant of Kali's to appease her and
Wow.
stop her stomping on heads.
Wow. Thank you, Rainey.
There's a second one written the day after to another environmental expert, St. Francis. Will I read that?
Yes, please.
'Tis spring, 'tis possible. Blossoms, calla lilies, narcissus and jasmine fill the air. 'Tis spring, a wagtail and friend were fluttering with food to share. Walking in the sunshine and feeling beautifully warm, the bees were humming and under one tree they sang like a swarm. It would be dreadful to think that one day none of this might be. The waste from human consumption is messing not just the sea. Oh, birds up here in my treehouse, you sing your lovely songs. I'll walk and do my best to protect your beautiful throngs. I think that Johnny Appleseed had it right from the get-go. We need to plant trees and veggies and soupy-doop supermarket and the soupy-doop let go. Trader this and whole veggies that are still a stock market slave. What I need is a garden and some acreage and cast capitalism to the grave. Oh, rain dust, kid yourself not. You make it sound so simple to leave this sophistication behind. But perhaps 'tis possible. The dogs agree. Oh, rain dust, you kid yourself. You make it sound so simple to leave this sophistication behind. But perhaps 'tis possible, though, to love all creatures like St. Francis and live in this nature sublime.
Oh, lovely.
I've always got that harping cello under the bottom. That was a Francis line. No matter how glorious the music and how exalted you are and become, always remember the cello and the bass are harping below.
Lovely. Those are lovely. Thank you so much, Rainey. I appreciate your sharing those. Jay Baba.
No, Randy, I missed the boat on who the author is.
Rainey.
Rain dust is rainy.
You. Oh.
Moi.
Wow.
Diana, do you have something you'd like to read?
Yeah, I have 3, and I'm not sure, about time and everything. So
Yeah, let's see how it goes and how long they are, and then we can decide.
okay, I'll start with the 2 shorter ones, and then if there's time for a longer one, we can do it at the end. Or should we do it? Or shall I just do the one longer one first? What do you think?
Whatever you feel like.
Okay, I'll do these 2 shorter ones first. Well, now I have to decide. Okay. Let me do the long one because I've never done it before and I'd like to read it.
Okay.
So this is called Story from Bear Country by Leslie Marmon Silko.
Can you just say for a second who she is?
She's a native writer, and I really am not real familiar with her work, but I know her name. She's written stories or novels, and she's written this poem.
Right, thank you.
You will know when you walk in bear country, by the silence flowing swiftly between juniper trees, by the sundown colors of sand rock all around you. You may smell damp earth scratched away from yucca roots. You may hear snorts and growls, slow and massive sounds from caves in the cliffs high above you. It is difficult to explain how they call you. All but a few who went to them left behind families, grandparents and sons, a good life. The problem is you will never want to return. Their beauty will overcome your memory like winter's sun melting ice shadows from snow. And you will remain with them locked forever inside yourself. Your eyes will see you dark, shaggy, thick. We can send bear priests loping after you, their medicine bags bouncing against their chests. Naked legs painted black, bear claw necklaces rattling against their caps of blue spruce. They will follow your trail into the narrow canyon through the blue-gray mountain sage to the clearing where you stopped to look back and saw only bear tracks behind you. When they call, faint memories will writhe around your heart and startle you with their distance. But the others will listen because bear priests sing beautiful songs. They must if they are ever to call you back. They will try to bring you step by step back to the place you stopped and found only bear prints in the sand where your feet had been. Whose voice is this, you may wonder, hearing this story, when after all you are alone, hiking in these canyons and hills while your wife and sons are waiting back at the car for you. But you have been listening to me for some time now, from the very beginning, in fact, and you are alone in this canyon of stillness. Not even cedar birds flutter. See, the sun is going down now. The sand rock is washed in its colors. Don't be afraid. We love you. We've been calling you all this time. Go ahead, turn around. See the shape of your footprints in the sand.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. That is so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Leslie Martin Silco is Pueblo. There were several, Pueblo tribes. The Hopis are one of the Pueblo, and they're really pretty traditional people. But she apparently was raised in a BIA school. She was taken away from her family, like many Native children. So she would have been really raised among white people before she was let to go back to her family in Albuquerque. And bears in the Native tradition are considered the most powerful of all the animals in terms of their relationship to the earth. So they typically represent earth healing, in a really good way.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I've always wondered, do I have a totem? And at some point I decided that the bear was my totem. And when I told my brother, he told me it was his totem. So he felt
Really?
that's when he sent me the totem.
That's
And
beautiful.
I just love about this bear, he's almost like the avatar. He's very interesting in this poem. So
Yeah.
I like him very much.
Yeah.
I believe bear is also associated with intuition.
I haven't heard that. Good to know. You're a very intuitive person, so it's good for you to be called Big Bear.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Is that just a coincidence, or is he being intuitive?
So it was a nickname given to me.
He has spent some time developing his intuition in the past few years. Very beautifully, I might add.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In bear books, they're described as a shy animal that's unpredictable and can be dangerous. So you have to be very respectful of them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see if we can come back to you, Diana, so you can read those other two. I'm going to ask Ralph if he'd like to read, and then we can see how the time goes. Ralph, did you bring something to read? Would you like to read?
I could read a poem of Huma.
Yes, thank you.
All right, this one we've been working on quite a bit lately because they're all very mystical and a bit complex.
When you say working on, you mean you're trying to understand them?
I mean, I read it frequently. But and some of you have been the ones who heard it. Most of you have, I think. Again, this is The Cage, translation from Noshawan Anzar. Give me sugar and sweets so that I may buzz like a bee. Let me hear honeyed words, that I may begin a dialogue. You will find his whereabouts only if you renounce this world. You cannot glimpse the Lord now. You are still steeped in lust. I am God's slave, but the Creator is the slave of the slave. I have a claim to justice, for I am the aggrieved one. My eyes yearn for a vision of God. Is it possible that I am under the influence of an illusion? There is so much pain in my breath, there is so much pain as my breath hovers between life and death. Everything has come to pass. I am now breathing my last. Puma's feathered spirit is trapped in his body's cage. Liberate me, O Lord, from this physical prison. Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba. Hey, I have a question about that poem. Did you say aggrieved?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point for meditation. You want me, shall I repeat it again, or I think, where did I get this? I printed it.
Read the whole thing again. It's just so profound and so beautiful. I think we'd all love to hear it again.
Aggrieved. I am God's slave, but the Creator is the slave of the slave. I have a claim to justice, for I am the aggrieved one. So,
well, it makes so much sense, doesn't it? If he's feeling trapped in his body, which I think we can all relate to, then that would be such a perfect word, aggrieved.
It's such an unusual word. I almost never hear that word.
Yeah, I know. It is such an unusual word, aggrieved, but it has so much. It's such a rich word.
Makes it all the more poignant. Yeah.
Absolutely. Aggrieved.
Grief in the root, right?
Yeah, aggrieved is like I am in the state of grief. I am aggrieved. Yeah.
It's got to be rooted in grief, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It means I am in a state of grief, aggrieved. Mm-hmm.
Incredible word.
Great word. Yeah.
What's really funny is when he was reading it at first, I turned to Carrie and I said, did he just say aggrieved? And then to have Laurent pick that up to discuss was great.
Well,
maybe it's where all of the poems, Be Not Grieved, the 7 or so Hafez poems were Be Not Grieved, and there's Rumi saying, well, so much for that, I am aggrieved.
It probably was something that was used, 5 years ago, 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a tough jump from the second couplet to the third one. The second one is, you will find his whereabouts only if you renounce this world. You cannot glimpse the Lord now. You are still steeped in lust. So it's kind of hard to determine if Huma is speaking to the world at large, or to himself, or to
Right.
both simultaneously.
Well, he
And his
plays the
condition
role.
at that age was quite unique, I think, in that he was not, I don't think he was fully, I don't think Upasana Raj had finished with Baba when these poems were written.
Well, that's a great question. He used his pen name Huma before he was even kissed by Babajan and got
Right.
realization.
Right.
So, but he could have continued using it throughout. So that's a great question. The first time you read it, I heard the word wants, and the second time you read it, I heard the word lust. So I get confused about some of these words, but
L-U-S-T, lust is the word, yeah. You
I
cannot
heard
want
lust.
the Lord now. You are still steeped in, well, they're kind of synonymous and for the purpose, I presume, lust or wants, yeah.
Yeah, I heard wants the first time. But the thing I was going to say is, Baba dictated the prayer of repentance. And when he did that, he played the role of being the spiritual aspirant asking for repentance. So he could put himself in any role as the voice of a poet.
Right. Not only can you be aggrieved, you can also aggrieve someone. But I think it comes from Latin, and I think it's used legally as well. It's not completely unfamiliar.
Oh, what's the word in Latin? I'd love to hear that.
Oh, I'd have to look that up. But
And I think the interesting thing about the question that you raised, was he saying it to himself or was he saying it to the audience? I think, as a poet or as a writer, you can definitely say them to both. I mean, you almost can't say something to someone that you can't say to yourself. Do you know what I mean? When you're speaking poetically. So I don't know if that makes any sense.
the Latin is laesus. Laesus, Laesus.
Okay.
But I had to look that up. But it sounded like
aggrieved. Is that what we're still on? I'm sorry.
Aggrieved. And to aggrieve and be aggrieved. And be not grieved.
Oh, thank you so much for reading that. I had wanted to read him tonight, and I did not have time to pull any hymn poems out. So I really appreciate you bringing that to us tonight to hear. Thank you.
Sure.
Always love to hear his poetry.
Thank you.
Never get tired of it. Hard to follow. So we have 5 minutes, and I had actually pulled 4 David White poems. One because it reminded me of the Ukraine War. Although the poem is actually about Ireland. I won't read all 4 of them because I don't think we have time, and I did want to close with this death poem. But I'll just start by a poem he wrote about his son, who's now an adult, and his son's name is Brendan. And for those of you who don't know, David White lives in the United States, but is from England, and he was very good friends with the priest who died, who was so famous, John O'Donoghue. Jupiter in the western sky, and my son walking with the wide arc of the sea behind him. Above his head, the fishing pole bent as if to catch the day-lit star hovering on the broad horizon. The mere shape of him in silhouette I love so much. The whip of his wrist and rascal slant of his cap, like some hieroglyph of love I deciphered long ago and read to myself again and again. When I first heard him in the fluid darkness before his birth, calling to his mother and I from the yet unknown and unseen world to which he belonged, I could not know that particular slant of his face or hand. I could not know how he would speak to me. Our love then was for an unknown promise, but just as strong as if the promise was known. May all of our promises from now be just as strong as they are hidden. For no imagining could have shaped you, my boy, as I shape you now, with the eyes of a fatherly love that must be shaped itself by your growing. If I was asked what my gift had been, I should turn to look at you. You and your beloved fishing pole casting for a star. This one is called The Horse Whisperer, and it's the poem about Ireland that reminded me a little bit of Ukraine, but it's really about an actual horse whisperer. So you have to keep that in mind when you're hearing this. Ireland is the ghost horse, all right, rearing out of history like the wraith herd seen at Fenor after the events of Bloody Sunday and after the peace thrown away and the guns still hidden and the red hand taking the ghostly reins again. We saw the tiny speckled lights of violence from every townland, looked in the lamp of one another's eyes, felt that presence riding in the night fields again, and the encroaching loss of control in the village that we knew heralded the ancient panic. So now they were waiting in the autumn rain as they used to wait by the crossroads, gathered on both sides to see what was anticipated to be a miracle. Though at first everyone averted their eyes from what they knew to be, in these times, too old and too innocent a magic to believe in. The horse somehow caught and led between everyone and the man waiting in the hushed hysteria to speak. His mouth moving close to the ghost ear, they saw a hand pass over the twitched shoulder and felt the first frightened shudder of the horse pass back through the crowd like a wave breaking. Give him room, someone said. Then they strained to hear what they knew could not be heard in the silence. They could only wait. Their hypnotic faith now joined involuntarily as they watched the calmed violence fall away, caught in the animal body of the first spoken words. I think I chose that poem partly because it reminded me of what's happening in Ukraine, and partly because it reminded me of the way that we can whisper something of peace or goodness to someone in a time of panic or difficulty, and it can have such a profound effect, and we can be like a horse whisperer. The power of words.
Beautiful.
But this was the last poem we're going to end with. It's a poem I wrote about death for my friend who passed. It's called Benacht, or Our Death. We're all going to die. And Benacht is the Gaelic word for blessing. My friend looked like he committed suicide, looked like he died on his birthday in a pool in Key West. But in fact, I felt like he had really sort of just given up on life, and it was sort of a suicide. And I wanted to say something about that because, you know, there's such a stigma around suicide. And I wanted to say, on some level, we are all welcome. You know, we're all welcome back to God's arms. So not for our death. And somebody has their, if everyone can mute themselves with someone's on. Yeah, thank you. We are doorways. We are entrance points. We are light-filled and vulnerable in ways we cannot imagine. Our bodies breaking like clay bowls under the weight of it all. This joy, so tenable, so elusive, starts out as a recognition and becomes a kind of knowing, filling over the ancient loneliness of this world, which otherwise racks and grieves the body, cracking us down to the marrow. Joy, filling the body's furrows that are so deep, They become rivers of light. Sing praises for your life. Sing as if tomorrow will not come, because one day it will not. And all we will be left with are the efforts, love-filled and glorious. The striving to let in the tenderness of it all. Breaking down the walls that hold back the beauty as if we don't belong. Settling into a deeper countenance, as if home were everywhere, and you walking up to the threshold, no longer a guest, but a loved and welcomed member. So thank you all for the listening ear and for bringing your beautiful poems. I really just loved hearing them, and feel much enriched in this hour by sharing them with you and sharing them amongst ourselves.
I can't wait to listen to it again on the recording.
Oh yeah, I'm working on my CD, and that's going to be on there, and I'm waiting for the cellist to add her part. Otherwise, that CD would be done. So thank you, Diane. I'm looking forward to hearing it as well. I appreciate that.